Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. And today, we've prepared a couple of stories to make your day more interesting. But before we start, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. And our first story. You want me to call the cops? Not a problem. This happened to me in 2013. I was over 30, had gone back to school, and it was the Friday before finals week on my last semester to finish my CE degree. Bordering around campus, it's rather low income and not highly educated, and not a place I frequented. I walked into a gas station, we'll call it Square L, about 7:30 a.m. Locally, that's 30 minutes after they start selling alcohol. County is dry between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. Grab 2 of the largest packs of cheap beer they sell and head up to the register. No big deal, just stocking up for a small study party with friends on campus later that day. The person behind the register eyes me suspiciously as I set them on the counter and tells me I'm not buying them. I politely explain it's after 7 a.m. and I don't see a problem. The manager, denoted by dress shirt instead of polo, leans over and tells her to get my ID. So she asks me for it. I'm like, fine, whatever. I fidget around a minute before realizing it's in my car. I say as much and offer to go grab it. She told me to go ahead. I dash out to my car, grab my wallet from my book bag, no big deal, walk back in and present it to the person at the register, who promptly glances at it, snickers, snaps it in half, tosses it in the trash, and tells me to get the F out of her store. I stood there a minute, sort of dumbfounded. The manager tells me to get the F out of the store or police will be called and someone is getting arrested. I mumbled something along the lines of, oh crap, and opted to comply with the second half. I went to my car, grabbed my phone, called non-emergency, and told them I just had my driver's license taken and destroyed, read off the address, ended my call, and headed back inside and stood. The manager tells me, that's it, they're calling the cops. I let her know I already did. The clerk laughs and shouts for the people in the store to hear, y'all want to stick around? This punk called the cops on us for taking their fake ID. It took about 10 minutes, but they showed up. As they arrived, the manager rushed out the door and I walked behind. The cop asked for me immediately by name, dismissing the manager, pointing at me, and rattling off about my fake ID. I told him what happened, and I was told to leave or cops were to be called and someone was to be arrested. He then takes the statement from the manager, then the clerk, then requests the ID to be retrieved from the trash. He looks it over and hands the 2 pieces back to me. He hasn't said anything other than simple requests for info up to this point, then asks me to come along. We're gonna go have a chat outside. At this point, I'm actually growing a bit concerned. He punches in the DL number and up pops my face and info, clean history, both driving and criminal. He then lets me know that destruction of a license is a misdemeanor in this state and asks which one snapped it. We have a brief conversation, and at this point, he's smiling ear to ear. He asks if I want to press charges, and at this point, I've already missed first class, so I state that I do. I'm told to play along with him, and we share course of action. By this time, there were 4 squad cars and police milling about. Customers had grown scarce. We walk back in. I'm staring at the floor, looking pensive, and he says loudly, "What do we say?" and nudges me. I politely say, "I'm very sorry this happened, and I'm sure it won't happen again." The clerk and manager begin chuckling. I then finish with, the manager requested the clerk take it, who snapped it, and the manager is the one who said someone is getting arrested. The officer undid his cuffs from his belt, walked up to the clerk, and began with Miranda rights. Another did the same to the manager. Another 30 minutes roll by while they're sitting in the backs of squad cars. Store is devoid of employees until someone walks out from the back cooler. I wait patiently. Eventually, they're cut loose under their own recognizance. I'm given a date to play witness in court. We head back in and the manager is irate. The employee on release bolted. I pay for my now warm beer and leave. My professor got a great laugh out of the police report and let me do my project presentation late. And our next story. Want me to log my work time more accurately using a timer because you think I'm cheating you? Happy to oblige. This happened a while ago, and I've since moved jobs. Basically, every employee in my department was supposed to log their work hours and the project they were working on. When I first joined the company, I noticed that there was an inbuilt timer in the software, which you can start or stop to get accurate logs. But I asked my bosses and other employees around, and everyone told me that no one uses it, and everyone fills in the log EOD or first thing in the morning the next day. I was cool with that. So I started logging my time just like everyone else. Things were fine for quite a while, till I started putting in more and more hours to get work done. Fast forward to that fateful day. I get called by management. They tell me that my logging seems dishonest and deliberately misleading. I got told off, saying they rely on these numbers to plan deadlines for the future, only on paper, not in practice, and that I'm cheating the company. They instructed me to only use the timer next day on and nothing else. I should probably mention that the way I logged time till then was rounded down to 30-minute increments, just out of personal preference. For example, if a meeting lasted 30 minutes, I'd more often than not log 30 minutes. On top of that, I used to remove an hour off the top just as an eyeball figure for lunch and smoke breaks, because on average, that's how long it took. And I should add that everyone, including my bosses, used to log time similarly. The company had trusted us not to be dishonest with it, and generally it worked out fine. Anyway, that day on, I started using the timer for everything. 10-minute briefing, going in the log. 5-minute company call, logged. Started eating in 15 minutes instead of 30, cut down on smoke breaks from 2 to 1, etc. Basically, I made sure almost every minute between my in and out times would be accounted for. They also maintained a timestamp of all the times someone enters and exits the office, which they combined with the log to check. I made sure I was not being dishonest in any way and just logging my actual work times. As you can guess, all the 11-hour overtime days piled up pretty quick, and at the end of the month, I got called by management again. My boss and his boss were both there. My boss was furious, demanding to know how my overtime hours had nearly doubled from previous months. I just said, I don't know. I'm using the timer just like I was instructed to. I told him to go through my in and out times, my breaks, my deliverables, and when the timer was started and stopped to check if I was being dishonest or not. They sent me away after yelling at me a bit more, threatening termination if I was wrong. Next day, my boss told me to stop using the timer again and apologized for calling me dishonest. I stopped using it, but told him that now I knew more accurately how long my stuff takes, so I'll be logging accordingly, even if I do so manually. A lot of higher-ups would be astonished how much work is done for free. As some of you know, I work at a parking lot. What many of you don't know is I'm also a camera operator at a national retail store. Yay for me. Anyway, there's been a pretty big sale all week, people everywhere, and obviously markdown tables in our aisle. Now, I don't leave the camera room unless I'm going for a cigarette or to the bathroom. Company policy. I don't approach anyone, and I don't have a uniform or name tag. Let's begin the story, shall we? It's noon. Security guard just returned with his lunch, and that's my cue to head out for a smoke while he watches the cameras and eats. I'm walking downstairs, cutting through cosmetics, and there's like 5 women in the aisle around a table. Excuse me, ladies, can I get through? 3 out of the 5 moved over. General old lady banter like, oh, sorry, honey, and giggles, whatever. But 2 younger women just stand there looking through a purse display. Me, to the closest one. Excuse me, ma'am, can I get past you, please? She moves a little closer to the table, enough room to get by without being uncomfortably close. Other lady is planted in place, doesn't even acknowledge me, and calls over an associate. Me, excuse me, ma'am, I'm just trying to get her. You need to effing wait your turn. Me, I'm just trying to... Her. I was here first. Me being security, I have a radio on my hip when I do exit the room. Apparently, the security guard was watching and radios, S1, have you been to the dock yet? Haven't heard the door buzzer. I respond, negative, nope yet, just trying to get through the crowd here. As I'm talking to our security guard, this crazy B-word jerks and falls back on her butt and starts screaming. Me, whoa, what the? Her, he pushed me, call the police, he assaulted me. On second thought, you should probably come down to cosmetics near the purse display. Me, straight-faced, ma'am, nobody touched you. The other women around the table and the associate are just staring in awe. The security guard and store manager are coming down the escalator, and she's having none of it, cussing me out, the store, threatening to sue, etc. Me, raising my voice slightly. Ma'am, you do know we record everything in the store, right? Her. Good. I want to speak to your manager. I want to speak to security. Ma'am, I am security. Manager and guard walk up behind me as I'm saying this. Guard. Ma'am, we have video footage. He was nowhere near you as you fell back. Did you injure yourself? She's having none of this. She starts crying and holding her shoulder. The security guard is just shaking his head. Our manager pulls me to the side and tells me the police are on their way, and not to say anything until then. Cops show up. Officer 1. So what's going on here, sir? Me. I asked these women to move for me so I could go out to smoke. This one decided to cuss me out, then threw herself to the ground, claiming I assaulted her. Okay, wait here. Officer 2 has the woman sitting there radioing for medical attention. Officer 1 and 2 are talking. I don't know what they said. Officer 1 comes back and asks, who runs security here? The guard chimes in. Well, he does, actually. Officer 1. Oh, so you're not a regular employee? Me. No, sir. I operate the camera room for loss prevention. The manager then chimed in. He's the head of our loss prevention at this store. Wait, what? Officer 1. So do you have cameras in this area? Guard. Yes, we do. We have the incident on camera. She fell on her own. I guess the lady overheard this and assumed we had some sort of weird angle. Her. He pushed me. How can that camera see him push me, huh? As she pointed to a camera off to the side. Guard. Ma'am, that camera's on cosmetics. The camera over here points to a camera near our dock door. Covers this whole area because it's high traffic. Her face goes pale white. Not the first time, not the second time, but the third time it finally clicks. Her. Well, I want to see this footage. Officer 2 goes upstairs with the lady and our manager and the guard as Officer 1 is asking me what happened, so I give him my story, blah, blah, blah. Then he asks, if we see that she attempted to file a false report, are you willing to follow through and contact the prosecutor? Oh, F yeah, with a big crap-eating grin. Yes, sir. Officer 2 radios Officer 1, tells him her report is inconsistent with the footage. Officer 1 radios whoever, says they're arresting her for filing a false report. She's walked out in cuffs, screaming and crying about how I assaulted her. Manager tells me I handled it well, and apparently I'm getting a new title and an extra $1.50. Karma's been good to me lately. I'm so happy that this ended with her walking away in cuffs. People need to stop trying to pull these BS legal moves. Thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one soon.